Hey students, in this video we are going to talk about an arithmetic sequence. So in an arithmetic sequence, the difference between each pair of numbers is the same, and that difference is called the common difference. So here in this brief example, we have four terms, where the first term is 5, and then 10, 15, and 20, and their difference, which is called the common difference, is the same, and that difference is 5. And so if I add 5 to 5, I get 10. If I add 5 to 10, I get 15. Now if I add 5 to 15, I get 20. So our goal in example 1 and example 2 is to determine what is the common difference. So in example 1, I see that my numbers are increasing. We're going from 5 to 9 to 13 to 17. And so that means my common difference is going to be a positive number. And so what number could we add to 5 to get to 9? Well, that number is going to be 4. And then what number could I add to 9 to get to 13? That number is going to be 4. Now, if you have trouble trying to figure that out, remember when we were finding slope, you can subtract those two numbers. So if I take the second number minus the first number, I get 4, and that's my common difference. And as I move down the list, I can take the 13 and minus the 9, and I get 4. So that is going to be how I can find that common difference. And so each time we are adding 4, and if I wanted to continue this pattern to find the next number and the next number, I simply am just going to add 4 each time. So the next term should be 21, which is the fifth term, and if I add 4 more, the next term is going to be 25. So for my second example here, if I want to find the common difference, starting with 20, and then I'm decreasing in value, I go to 17, decrease again. So now my common difference is going to be a negative number, or we can look at it as we are subtracting. And so what number am I subtracting? If I'm unsure, I can take the second number and subtract the first number, and that's going to give me my common difference of -3 or -3. And so if I'm unsure for the next value, then I can take the 14 minus the 17, and that's going to give me my -3. So my common difference here for these is -3. And so just like the previous example, if I want to find the fifth term after 11, I simply just subtract 3, and that's going to give me 8. And if I want to find the sixth term, I'm going to subtract 3 again, and that's going to give me 5. And so this is how you find the common difference, whether it's decreasing or whether it's a negative or whether it's a positive for an arithmetic sequence. And so what I would like you to do is turn to page 119, and I want you to try and find the common difference in the next 3 terms for number 2 and problem number 4, and you'll input your answers here in the Edpuzzle video. So now let's look at how we can write an equation for an arithmetic sequence. And so here is kind of the formula for writing the equation, where we have a sub n says is the nth term, and so that just means it's any term in the sequence as long as you know the term number. Like 3 here is the first term, so n would be 1. 8 is the second term, so n would be 2. 13 is the third term, so n would be 3. So if we wanted to, let's say, find the 100th term, then n would be 100, and then we could use this formula to find that. And so a sub 1 is the first term, and then d is the common difference that we practiced finding before. But we're going to find the equation a little differently. Since we've been looking at linear regression in class, we can actually use that same concept here to find our equation in the calculator. So on page 118, I want you to make this table, and we know that our table should have an x value and a y value, but I want to relate my table to this equation here. So instead of me having x and y, I'm actually going to have n, because that's my term number, and I'm going to have a sub n. So my n is like my x, and my a sub n is like my y. And so the first term is 3, the second term is 8, the third term is 13, and the fourth term is 18, and the fifth term is 23. And so we're actually going to put this in the calculator in the list in the spreadsheet like we've done in class with the regression. So make sure, again, you have this table written down in your paper. So go to your calculator for me, and we're going to go home, and we're going to do new document. If you're asked to save it, select no, and we're going to select number 4. And just like we did in class, we have to arrow up to the A, and we're going to type in, we're still going to use X. We're not going to change this from X or Y. We're not going to type in any other variables. We're going to use X instead. We just have to remember that X represents N. And I'm going to arrow down. I'm going to type in my numbers. And so we had 5 numbers. So I'm going to do 1 through 5 in this column. And I'm going to arrow over, and I'm going to go to the top of the table, and I'm going to type in my y, which was the a sub n. And I'm going to type in those values. So it was 3, 8, 13, 18, and 23. And then the same steps apply here that they did with the regression. I want to do Control Doc to add a calculator page. So number 1. And then menu, we're going to do statistics, stat calculation, and then linear regression, number 3. The X list is still X because that's what I named it. Hit tab. The Y list is still Y because that's what we named it. And we're going to tab all the way down and hit OK. And then this is going to give us our slope and our y-intercept, which is what we need to write an equation. So in the calculator here, this information is going to help us write the equation. I know that normally my equation would be y equals mx plus b. So y equals 5x minus 2. According to this information up here, 5 is the slope, it's the m, -2 is the b, that's my y-intercept. But instead, I'm going to write it in the terms for the sequence, which is going to be a sub n, because that's the y, equals 5n minus 2. So this is going to be the equation that we're going to write down on our paper. So let's go back to our paper, and we'll pull up the problem we're looking at. So according to the calculator, we got a sub n equaled 5x minus 2. Oh, not 5x, 5n minus 2. And so this equation is going to describe every single term in this sequence. And we can use this equation to help us find other terms or other values of terms. So if I wanted to continue my table here, and let's say I wanted to find the 10th term, well, we could do that a number of ways. I can evaluate it. So a sub 10 is going to be 5 times 10 minus 2. I can do that, which that shouldn't be too difficult for us to figure out. That's just going to be 50 minus 2, which is going to be 48. So that's the 48th term. Or I can always input that in my calculator. We know we can put that in the graph screen and then trace the line or pull up the table, Control T, so we can do it as well. So what I want you to try and do is I want you to look at number 17 and number 18 on page 120. And with both of those problems, I want you to create a table just like we did on the previous problem. So we have to know that this will be the first term, the second term, the third term, and the fourth term. So the first term was 43. The second term is 38. The third term is 33. And the fourth term is 28. Now, in addition to finding the equation, so write the equation, and we're going to use the calculator for that. We also want to find the value of the 10th term. So after you write your equation, we want to figure out what is the value of the 10th term. So that you want to find as well for both 17 and 18. And so go ahead and write your table, use your calculator to write your equation. And then if you have any issues, please ask for help, because that's what I'm here for.